Hello, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm a master's level therapist, and my specialty is cognitive restructuring, meaning I specialize in exposing and challenging dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that make decisions for people without their conscious awareness. I also provide people with tools, real tools to help them reprogram their minds with functional beliefs. Welcome to episode 2 in my Facebook and YouTube live series entitled Automatic React System versus Automatic Response System. Whenever you hear me use certain terms during any of my live series, terms such as lies, issues, unaddressed issues, or the buttons people push, I'm referring to the same thing. I'm referring to dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self defeating behaviors repeatedly despite the consequences. So, during this series, I'm going to talk about how dysfunctional unconscious beliefs, when they're triggered or activated, cause people to react rather than respond. And so these dysfunctional beliefs, they issue demands that people automatically obey without their conscious awareness. So the directives cause a negative reaction. Sometimes these reactions are overt, they're very obvious, and sometimes they're covert, they're more subtle. And so functional beliefs, healthy beliefs do the same thing. They issue demands automatically that people obey without really having to consciously think about them. And I'll give some examples shortly. And so the directives, they cause a positive or more healthy response when the functional beliefs are triggered or activated, sometimes overt, very obvious, sometimes more covert, they're more subtle, but they're still responding rather than reacting. So today, during episode 2, and this is a 4-part series, each episode can stand alone. So you don't have to have watched episode 1 to benefit from this episode. This is episode 2. But if you want to watch episode 1, you can scroll down in my feed and watch it. I do this series on Tuesdays from 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 12:30 p.m. So during this particular series, this particular episode, I'm going to provide examples of overt and covert reactions to what I call victim villain based beliefs. So last week I talked about 3 victim based beliefs. Now, when I use those terms, I'm not calling people victims or villains. I just use those terms to distinguish between 2 modes of thinking. So I've been specializing in cognitive restructuring for over 21 years, and I've had quite an extensive database of dysfunctional unconscious beliefs. So over the years, I started noticing some unhealthy beliefs that kept showing up in people repeatedly. So after a few years in the field, I came up with the 100 most commonly seen unconscious victim lies and 100 of the most commonly seen unconscious villain lies. So today I'm going to talk about some beliefs from the red set. Last week I did some lies from the blue set. Today we're going to talk about some villain-based beliefs, because whatever mode we're talking about these negative beliefs, these lies, they cause a reaction when they're triggered. So let's go but let me talk briefly about the definition of react versus respond. I did this in episode 1, but I want to revisit it. So I found a source from a psychologist, and I don't know, I have a little different take on what she said, but there's part of what she said about the difference that I agree with. So she said that reacting is an emotional response. It can to a stimuli or a situation. It can be impulsive and influenced by our past experiences or fears. And I agree. So with regards to responding, she said that it involves considering the situation, weighing the options, and making a more healthy decisions. But I agree to a certain extent. But when a functional belief is triggered, people can respond without having to put a lot of thought to it. Sometimes it requires stepping back and thinking and deliberating on the best course of action. But in a lot of cases, if a person's healthy belief system is triggered and the belief system says set a boundary or use assertive communication, they don't have to think. They don't have to take time and deliberate. They just do it. But they do it in a way that's healthy and not that is more assertive rather than aggressive or passive aggressive. So I'll give some real life examples. So this is making sense. So this week I'm going to talk about 3 villain-based beliefs that are the opposite of the victim-based beliefs that I talked about during episode 1. So one of the beliefs, the first belief I'm going to talk about today is this one. What other people say doesn't carry as much weight as what you have to say. Don't waste your time listening to them. That's it, and that's all. Now, remember, the beliefs are unconscious. Most people who struggle with this lie, they wouldn't walk into a room. They wouldn't walk into a room and say, hello, I believe that what other people say doesn't carry as much weight as what I have to say. So I'm not going to waste my time listening to you. That's it, and that's all. They don't consciously believe that, well, they may. Some people do. They struggle with certain personality disorders and they may consciously, but there's a lot of people who struggle with this lie, who make decisions based on this lie, who react to stimuli based on this belief, that don't consciously think like that. Very intelligent people, right? And so this belief, this lie, is the opposite of the victim lie we covered last week. So last week we talked about this lie, the victim lie. What other people say carries more weight than what you say. So this is the opposite lie that we're going to talk about today. And so when this belief gets triggered, it can cause an overt and a covert reaction. So an example of the overt reaction is over talking people with anger and indignation in your voice, not allowing them to finish what they are saying. Now that's similar to last week when I talked about the overt reaction to the victim lie, because the victim lie can cause people to either shut down or overtalk people, but it's a different type of over talking and cutting people off. People who struggle with the victim lie, they usually, when they cut people off, they do it with panic in their voice, because the lie is saying if the other person gets what they have to say into the atmosphere before you say what you have to say, it's going to carry more weight, so you have to cut them off. This is a different cutting people off and over talking people. When this lie is triggered, it tells the afflicted individual that what other people say is irrelevant, it's not important, you don't have to listen to them, cut them off. That's an overt reaction. So a covert reaction for when this dysfunctional unconscious belief is triggered is rolling one's eyes or sighing loudly, like someone's talking and the person afflicted by the lie may go or roll their eyes or leave. I remember years ago when I was very early in my cognitive restructuring process. I'm the first client of my program. So early in my process, when I was healing from these beliefs, and I had to heal from the victim beliefs and villain beliefs. In my program, we call that being VV ambidextrous. Anyway, so I remember talking to someone. I walked up to this person's vehicle and I was confronting them. And so I was confronting them on something that happened. And this person had their window rolled down, and I wasn't being belligerent, but I was challenging them on something. And this person rolled up the window while I was talking and went back to reading whatever they was reading. Very triggering for me. But I believe this person struggled with this particular belief, but I had to heal from it too. So I couldn't be too indignant because I had to heal from it too. And I'm still in the process of healing from it. It doesn't really get triggered that often. I've healed primarily from almost all of these beliefs that I struggle with, but there's a little residue of some of them that gets triggered every now and then, and I have to be aware of them as I walk towards, continue on my path to complete healing. I'm very close. Okay, so now I'm going to identify a functional belief that challenges this lie. the lie that says what other people say doesn't carry as much weight as what you have to say. So a more functional belief is people have a right to their opinion, and so do you. You can agree to disagree. This is the same functional belief that challenged the victim lie, because a functional belief can challenge both modes of thinking. And so it's the truth. People have a right to their opinion, and they have a right to express it, and you have a right to your opinion, and you have a right to express it. You have a right to articulate it, and you can agree to disagree. So what is the response rather than reaction? What is the response when the healthy belief is triggered? So, an overt response is allowing others to complete their thoughts, then sharing your thoughts without coming across as argumentative, without being aggressive in your tone, vocal tone, voice inflection, or body language. People say what they have to say, then you share what you have to say. Even if you have a completely different opinion, you can articulate it without being argumentative. So a covert way of responding to the functional belief is waiting your turn to talk, even if you disagree with what's being said, and without the eye rolling and body language, but just listening to people, even if you completely disagree. That's a response. That's a healthy response. So now let's go to the second belief we're going to talk, or lie, we're going to talk about this week. So this lie is what you think is more important than what others think or know to be the truth. Now, this is the villain lie, which is the opposite of the victim lie that we covered last week. So last week we talked about the victim lie, what other people think is more important than what you think or know to be true. So the villain lie is what you think is more important than what others think or know to be true. So when this lie is triggered or activated, an overt reaction is questioning someone's intelligence or sanity because they have a different opinion than you. So calling someone, using a derogatory term to describe someone who you disagree with, calling them stupid or ignorant, or calling them insane because they have a different opinion than you. That's an overt reaction when this belief is triggered. So a covert reaction is displaying anger, hostility, and indignation towards someone who thinks differently than you. So it doesn't have to be as covert, because a person may not be in the other person's face, displaying the anger. But let's say they're at a meeting, a staff meeting, and someone is articulating something that the person afflicted by this lie disagrees with. So they may use nonverbal communication. So that's why it's covert. So they may sit there and be like, or roll their eyes, or, smack their lips or whatever. And they act angry. Even after the meeting, they act angry at the person who had a different opinion than them. So there are times when people have disagree on topics that they're very passionate about. I was on a committee once that made some major decisions about a lot of money. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say the name of the committee, but we had some strong opinions. And I'm an activist. I'm an award-winning activist. So I'm very passionate about social injustices and fighting for rights, of disadvantaged populations, or what people label as disadvantaged populations. So we had in that committee, it was some table slapping going on, people talking through clenched teeth. It was not like a very mild discussion on certain months that we met. I believe we met monthly. It was either bi-weekly or monthly. This is a long time ago. But after the meeting, when the meeting broke up, we would be like, hey, okay, see you next month. See you next month. By the way, I like that dress. We didn't act angry towards each other after the meeting because we disagree. We were professional enough to say, okay, we have some different opinions. We're passionate. We have strong, we have strong thoughts about these subjects. We differ in what we believe. We can express it, and maybe sometimes we cross from a sort of over into aggressive. But after the meeting, we were like, see you next month. Okay, bye. We didn't go out and do coffee. I didn't, not with people. I was very busy anyway. But we still were able to interact with each other without acting like we are mad at this person because they think differently than us. So a functional belief, and these are my cognitive restructuring cards. This is, the functional belief is an entire paragraph. But for this series, for this Facebook Live series, I'm just condensing the functional belief into a couple of sentences. So a functional belief that challenges the lie, what you think is more important than what others think or know to be true. A functional belief is you have a right to your opinion and other people have a right to their opinion. There are times you've thought you were right and discover you were wrong. Give others the same grace, because sometimes both of you are wrong. If you're talking about if you're talking about opinion, you could both be wrong, right? But there's some things that you know, and there's some things that other people know. And even if someone disagrees, they have a right to stand in what they think and or know to be true. And so you can agree to disagree, and it's similar to the first belief we talked about, what other people say, but this is what other people think. And so they go together, what other people think and what other people say, because when people think something, in most cases, they express it. But people have a right to their opinion, and they have a right to articulate it. And you have a right to your opinion, and people have a right to, and you have a right to articulate your opinion, what you think to be correct, right? So an overt response, we're talking about response for the functional beliefs. The dysfunctional beliefs produce a reaction. The functional beliefs produce a response. So a response, an overt response to the functional belief that other people have a right to their opinion and you do too, is giving people the grace and space to express their opinions unapologetically. Even if a person finds out at some point they're wrong, they had a right to express what they thought. What they think. And so a covert reaction is engaging with people who have different opinions than you, sharing your thoughts without becoming belligerent. And so that's a more covert, because sometimes you're going to be in situations, we all find ourselves at times in situations with people who have very different opinions than us. Now, there are some extremes that, exceptions to the rule, some extremes. There are certain people I will not interact with at all, because their opinions are extremely different and they're harmful to society. And I just don't interact with them unless we're in a certain setting, like a panel or something, where we're discussing and presenting information to an audience. But we're not gonna hang out too much, like we may. Sometimes I have went to coffee with people and went had coffee with people, and we had very different opinions. And at the end of the coffee, we were like, well, okay, well, we just going to agree to disagree, but we're not buddies or anything, because it's hard to really have any type of really close personal or professional relationship with someone who has an extremely different viewpoint with values and principles than you. So we're not saying you have to be best buds with someone who has a completely different value system than you do. It's your choice, but it may be problematic. So the next and final lie or dysfunctional unconscious belief I'm going to talk about today is the lie people are at the mercy of your decisions, which is the opposite of the victim lie. You are at the mercy of other people's decisions. I talked about this lie last week. So this week we're going to talk about this villain-based lie. People are at the mercy of your decisions. So an overt reaction that this belief causes when it's triggered is it causes the afflicted individual to get upset when someone gets angry because that person made a decision that directly impacted them without their consent or input. So a person who's afflicted by this lie, they make decisions without putting any thought. And a lot of these decisions affect people directly, other people. And they make those decisions without any consideration as to how the other person is going to be impacted. They don't ask the person what they think. They don't include them in the decision-making process. They just make the decision. And in a lot of cases, people are collateral damage experience collateral damage. They become collateral damage to this person's decisions. And then when people who've been affected by their decisions confront them, a person with this belief, their reaction is they get angry because the lie is telling them they have a right to do that. They have a right to make decisions without taking into consideration how other people will be directly impacted. And I'm saying directly because any and all of us can make decisions that may have an indirect impact on other people, and we may not there it may not be in our conscious awareness, or it may not be something that we can prevent. So let me give you an example. Because I'm an activist, my program is a form, my Lies That Bind program is a form of activism. When I first started creating a program and presenting it to conferences and at workshops and to other people in the human service industry, I had a lot of people who were excited and thought this was like awesome. This program is amazing, right? But I also had some people who had a different opinion, and they had a right to have their opinion. But in their minds, they believed that I was operating out of this lie. They thought, oh, you making a program that will help a population we don't believe really need to be helped. Like I said, it was just some people. There's a lot of people in the human service industry who are passionate about helping people, and they've dedicated their lives to helping other people recover from different types of social, and to recover from different types of mental health issues and addictions, and help people economically to change their economic status. There's a lot of people passionate, but then there are people, and it's in any industry, you're going to have people who appear to be helping people, but that's not their motive. So I've had people confront me, and they did it in private, and say that my program was helping people a little too much, and they felt like I was making a decision that negatively impacted them, and that's not what was happening. They felt like that some people needed to survive so that they could thrive. They felt like some people needed to be sick so they could have a job. And I think very differently. They have a right to their opinion. I have a right to my opinion. And it's kind of like when Thomas Edison made the light bulb. He directly, well, I guess he directly and indirectly affected like the candle makers and the lantern makers. But when you're talking about progressing society, moving us through innovation to the next level, that's an exception. That people, innovators, make decisions based on helping society. In a lot of cases, the ones that do healthy, positive innovations, they're helping society. And so some people will feel that they didn't have a right to make that decision. But, the candle makers, I don't believe, and I don't know, but I believe they may not have been super excited about Thomas Edison, but we're really glad. I'm glad I have lights on I have a light over my computer. I have another light over here. So I'm really happy that he made that decision, even though he impacted other people. So I just want to make that point, because some of these beliefs they're kind of complex when you deconstruct them. That's why you have to be trained in cognitive restructuring to do it, because when you deconstruct them, each belief has a unique dilemma that has to be addressed during the deconstruction, and that's one of them. So I was kind of verbose, but I hope I made the point. So so I talked about an overt reaction when this lie is triggered. So a more covert reaction is when the person who's afflicted by this lie, they make decisions unapologetically that impact others, and it's usually negative, without asking for their input or consent, as if they have a right to do it. They just do it, right? And so that's another reaction. So a more functional belief that challenges this lie is, if you're going to make a decision that can impact others directly, you have an obligation to obtain consent from those individuals. Another way of expressing a more functional belief is, if you ping people, they have a right to pong, meaning that if people who make these decisions, who suffer with this lie, they make decisions, ping, and then they get upset when somebody pong to protect themselves because the decision impacted them. They had a right to pong. And this is what I say: if you don't like the pong, thou shalt not ping. So they can write that down as a quote. If people with this But this belief, because I work with people, I work with a lot of people who struggle with these beliefs, and I can understand them because I had to heal from these beliefs too. So if you go around pinging people, they have a right to pong. And I'm not talking about anything illegal or dangerous. I'm saying they have a right to set a boundary. They have a right to do damage control, to unravel and untangle themselves from the situation you involved them in without their permission. And so, overt response to the functional belief is asking people for their input on a course of action that you want to take that will directly impact them. A more covert response to the functional belief is listening to others who are upset because of a decision you made, maybe unintentionally, that without thinking, that directly impacted them. Listening to them express their frustration and anger and being apologetic and helping them do damage control to untangle themselves from a decision you made. So that's all for work. If you would like more information about my work, I'm going to put the link to my website, to my store page in the comments, down in the comments. You can purchase my workbook. I have a workbook that comes with 2 sets of these cards. You can purchase them on my store page. I also have another workbook that also comes with the card sets that entitled "My Unaddressed Issues Make My Budget and My Schedule." You can buy this workbook and the card sets because every one of these dysfunctional beliefs make demands on people's time and on their money. And I quantify their impact. I quantify the dysfunctional beliefs impacts, and I quantify the functional beliefs impacts. I also have a workbook on my website store page entitled "The Adult Reenactment of the Childhood Script." This is also now available on Amazon. So if you got Amazon, you can get it tomorrow if you order it today. And so on my website and on my website, I also have my book entitled "What's Really Going On." This is volume 1. It's available on my website store page, and it's also available on Amazon. I have my life story that I released this particular year of healing from childhood trauma, addiction, and healing from a trauma-based belief system. This is my life story. It's available only on Amazon. So you can get the ebook or the paperback book on Amazon. I'll put all these links in the comment sections. I also have a 20% discount going through the month of September for my life coaching packages. So I'll put all that information in the comment section if you would like to work with me individually. I'm not sure how long I'll be working with people individually, but so you may want to take advantage of the discount on the coaching packages, and I'll put the link and the discount code in the comments. So that's all for episode 2 in my Facebook Live series. I'll entitled "Automatic React System versus Automatic Response System." I'll see you next Tuesday, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good rest of your day.